loud cheering earlier, so I just want to continue along those lines. So if you're a girl or you're a supporter of girls, can you please give me a big cheer? Okay, really glad you did that because the rest of my speech is all about that. Perfect. So being part of a girls' team is so special. And you probably know this just as well as I do. I started playing soccer when I was 5 years old, probably like a lot of you, with North Shore girls. But as you become a teenager, the amount of bonding and special things that happen on a girls' team, including emotions and sinking periods, all kind of come together that may typically not happen on a boys' team. So I want to share a couple of different things with you. For me, two very special sports-related things happened when I was young. Number one, I met Leah Pels. Does anybody know who that is? Yeah? Okay. When I was in grade 3, I met Leah Pels. She had just gone to her first Olympics in the 1,500-meter track. And she went on to go to 2 more Olympics. But when I met her, I was in grade 3, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm meeting an Olympian. This is so cool. Has anybody else met an Olympian and felt like that? Yeah, hands up. Yeah, okay, perfect. I can't see your hands, but I feel like they're up. I met Leah Pels, and for the first time, I thought, wow, like, she's a runner, and that's her job. So I bet you playing soccer, you don't really think that being soccer could be your job. But here she was running as a career. And I was like fascinated. And then I started to grow up. And my parents told me that no, in fact, running was not a job, and that I would actually have to study and do other things as well. And I was okay with that, because in grade 6 I met my best friend, and at that time I was dealing with huge body issues. I hated my freckles, I hated my legs, I looked in the mirror and I just did not like a lot of stuff about myself. But because of North Shore Girls Soccer, I played on the North Shore Kodiaks, and I met my best friend Shauna. And I spoke to her this morning and I said, Shauna, I get to talk to North Shore Girls. And she's like, oh, make sure you tell them about how awesome it is. Okay. I think they know. Because on that team, I was in French immersion. Anybody else here in French immersion? Give me a cheer. I can't see your hand. Perfect. I was from Deep Cove in French immersion, and at that time we didn't have French schools in Deep Cove, so I had to travel all the way over to Lynn Valley. And when I got there on the first day of school in grade 8, I showed up, and all of my friends, the 5 of us who decided to continue with French immersion, dispersed. And everybody was in these little groups. And all of a sudden, I realized that I did not belong. And I had no idea what to do. And my friend Shauna, who I knew from soccer, who also had freckles and also had dealt with body image stuff, but was much more resilient than me, she said, come on over here. And she's still my best friend. And we played Metro together, and we played on the Nike national team together, and we went on this stage together. And now I can call her up and say, hey, Shauna, do you want to go for a run? And she'll always say yes. So she's there when I need to talk about boys and breakups and bad days and my mind and bad jobs and good jobs and everything. And that's what you get on a girls' sports team. You get that special extra layer of friendship. But I want you just to let's switch this up for a second. And I want you to imagine who thinks they're going to be that stoked about being a girl in sports when you're 17? Hands up or shout. Less shouting, because that's exactly what's going to happen. By the time you're 17, only half of your team, 51% of you, are going to stay in sports. That's the national statistic. So imagine half the girls you know, they're going to drop out of sport for whatever reason, but mostly because they feel like they don't belong. So I want you to imagine your team and think about how you feel when you're with your team. Do you like being with them? Do you like supporting them?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think you can do that until you're 17? I hope so. So, a few years ago, I was dealing with huge mental health issues. I had severe anxiety and depression, and I honestly did not know what I was doing with my life. I got into a really bad relationship, and and didn't know which way was up and which way was down. On the outside, my life looked really great. I traveled the world, I had great jobs, I got to meet people from around the world and do all sorts of things. I worked in tourism. It was really fun. But inside, I was dealing with a lot of stuff. Does anybody know what anxiety is? Yeah. Okay, because I didn't. And anxiety got me when I stopped playing sports. And it was like a 2-year-old was drawing a picture in my head, and it was scribbled, and it was colored, and it was loud, and I could not stop it. And I started dealing with depression. And at my lowest point in 2013, I saw a video come over my Facebook, and it was a girl telling a story on with these cue cards, and she was telling a story about being bullied and not having any friends and having to change schools and dealing with anxiety and depression. And does anybody know what video I'm talking about? Yeah, this is the video of Amanda Todd. And when I saw this video, I, for the first time in a long time, felt like somebody else knew what that felt like. And that was a really scary moment because I decided that I had 2 paths in front of me, and one was to follow that same road that Amanda had taken, and the other one was to do something completely different. And I would have to make a lot of personal changes if I was going to take that other road. So lucky for me, I decided this was a better road. And when you're dealing with depression and anxiety, it's really easy to isolate yourself and take yourself apart from friends and family. And so I moved back here to the North Shore, and I decided that I needed to do everything that I possibly could to help. I knew that if I was dealing with these sorts of things, and Amanda was dealing with these sorts of things, then likely there was other girls that were dealing with anxiety, likely there were other girls that were depressed, and likely there were other girls being bullied and not having the kinds of support networks that we really need as girls. So I started a program called Soul Girls, and we started this program to empower and create small groups of girls. The other thing I decided to do was to take my own mental health and physical health to the next level. And I signed up for the hardest thing I could possibly think about doing, to challenge myself and take my mind away from how terrible my life was. And that was to do an Ironman. Does anybody know what an Ironman is? Yeah, not the superhero. Although I do feel like a superhero when I do Ironman. An Ironman is a one sport, it's a triathlon. You swim for 4 kilometers, and then you ride your bike for 180 kilometers, and then you run a full marathon. And I decided that this was really going to help me. So there I hadn't been swimming since I was a teenager, and I definitely hadn't even ridden on a bike since I was a teenager. I didn't know how to clip into the pedals, let alone ride 180 kilometers. But I knew how to run. I've been running since I was 5 years old. I definitely knew that I could run. So, just like anything new, same as when I was 5 years old and kicking around that ball for the first time, I bought a bike, jumped on it, and got back into the pool and started training. Since then, I've done 3 Ironmans, and I got to go to World Championships for the half Ironman. Thank you. Thank you, but that means that anybody can do it, because if I could do that, and I was so far down and off my path, that you can do that too. And for the same thing goes for Soul Girls. I wanted to help people so much, I put every single ounce, besides for what was going into training that I could, into building a business where we can empower girls. And now Soul Girls runs around the world. We run programs across Canada and in Australia. So that's pretty fun too. But today I want you really to know that you are champions. Every single girl in here, it's not about the trophy, it's about showing up for the other girls. It's about being resilient and being empathetic and being kind, and when you're on that team, when another girl is crying, you're there for her, and you understand those feelings and what it's like. Because every day is just a day, and every day changes, and every day you have the possibility of making a better choice. You are so deserving of these trophies you're going to receive today. But more than anything, you're deserving of love and of kindness and of those other people that are going to support you as well. And being a girl on sports means overcoming obstacles. Lots of obstacles. But sports changes lives. Sports has changed my life. I'm sure sports has changed your life, and it's probably changed your family's life too. Sunday morning practices, anyone? My dream is that you leave today knowing that you can believe in yourself, and that you have team members that believe in you. And that every little girl coming up into your position also believes in herself. I'm going to tell you one more little story, and this is of a girl I met through Soul Girls. Her name is Kate. And Kate joined me a few years ago when she was, I think she was 10 years old. And Kate joined not because she loved running. Anybody love running here? A couple people? Woo-hoo! Okay, well, Kate really didn't like running. Actually, she hated running. And she'd come to practice and she'd say, oh, my legs aren't long enough, they're faster than me, she's better than me, and I'm just not good enough, and the girls at school are running faster, and I just can't do this. And I would say, okay, Kate. And this would go on every week. And finally I said, Kate, you know what? Let's try something. Repeat after me. I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm me. And she was like, oh, why would I say that? There's no reason for me to say that. I'm not that strong. I'm just like 10. I'm like not that powerful. What can I do? I'm just a girl. And I said, just try it. She was like, okay, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm me. And she burst into tears. I was like, oh no, what have I done? And after practice, she came up to me and she said, she's like, come here. And she whispered into my ear, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm Kate. And I was like, okay, game on. And then the next practice, she came again. And at the end of practice, she said it a little bit louder, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm Kate. And then the next practice, it was a little bit louder and a little bit louder. And by the end we do a 5-kilometer fun run. She was running through the finish line with her arms straight up in the air, going, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm me. And I think that that is each one of you. Can you say it with me? I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm me. Perfect. And you are all champions. And I want to thank you so much for having me today. And I want you to just go home today, when you go home with your trophy, know that it's not just about you, not just about your team, but about every single girl that you're empowering to take that next step into trying something new. Thank you.